Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Random Rewatch, the podcast where we dig classic, forgotten, or in this case, deeply misunderstood movie out of the archives and look at them through a modern lens. I am your host, Mike, and today we are strapping on our plastic body armor, picking up our fake assault rifles, and heading straight to Clendathu. We are breaking down Paul Verhoeven's 1997 sci-fi spectacle, Starship Troopers.
In every age, there is a cause worth fighting for. But in the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be man at all.
Hey, kid, what's going on? It's war! We're going to war!
Now, the youth of tomorrow must travel across the stars to defend our world.
We are a generation commanded by fate to defend humankind.
Everyone fights, no one quits.
We are going in with...
All right, so if you walked out of the movie theater back in 1997, there's a really high chance that you walked out scratching your head or even a little grossed out. On the surface, this looks like a massive, big-budget, brain-dead action movie populated by incredibly beautiful, shiny people from daytime soap operas fighting giant CGI bugs. But almost 30 years later, Starship Troopers is widely celebrated as one of the sharpest, most subversive political satires that had ever smuggled into a Hollywood studio budget. So how do we get here? How did this thing even get made? So in 1959, a guy named Robert Heinlein wrote a novel called Starship Troopers. And this novel is set in a future society that's ruled by a human interstellar government called the Terran Federation. And we follow a first-person narrative of a guy named Johnny Rico, who is a young Filipino man, through his military service in the mobile infantry. And there's a interstellar war between arachnids, or bugs, and humans. And it's very much like a kind of Cold War movie. And Heinlein had very militaristic views, so it was kind of a pro-militarism book, and very controversial at the time. So fast forward to 1991, and screenwriter Ed Neumeyer, who had worked with Paul Verhoeven on RoboCop, he was working on an original treatment called Bug Hunt at Outpost 9, which is a gritty story about soldiers fighting insects. He wound up getting it to producer John Davidson, who set it up over at TriStar. And it was noted by Davidson that it was actually pretty similar to the Starship Trooper novels, even though it really had nothing to do with it. So where originally Bug Hunt was pitched as a standalone project, TriStar decided to develop it as an adaptation of Starship Troopers for a couple of reasons. One, because it was a known property. Two, because they were worried that Bug Hunt was so close in its core concept that they were worried about a lawsuit. So they figured it was just easier to buy the film rights for Starship Troopers and then adapt the film. So in 1993, Paul Verhoeven is signed onto the project. He starts to read the book and he hates it. He can't even get through it. He said it's boring, it's depressing, and he really hated the way the militarism is framed in it. So he had Neumeyer just kind of sit down with him and tell him the story of the book. So you have to understand a little bit about Paul Verhoeven. He is a Dutch filmmaker. He grew up in Nazi-occupied Netherlands during World War II. He knows exactly what real fascist propaganda looks like because he witnessed it as a child. So rather than making like a straight-face movie glorifying this hyper-militarized society where you can only vote if you serve in the military, he decided to weaponize the studio's budget to make it a parody of a fascist propaganda film. So TriStar was still a little bit skeptical about the whole thing. They agreed to let Verhoeven film some test footage, and so they staged a battle at Vasquez Rocks in California. TriStar paid $225,000 to do this, and the sequence shows a soldier being pursued by a couple of bugs. Verhoeven directed it, even though he was directing Showgirls at the time. He came out to do that. They did some visual effects on it. The studio executives, when they screened the footage, they didn't even realize that it was CGI at first. And so they were pretty impressed by it, but there were still others in the studio who were kind of hesitant to spend the kind of money that it would take to do this. TriStar was still hurting from spending $200 million on Waterworld, which was a huge flop. Davidson had put together a $90 million budget. They thought that that was too much. TriStar said, look, we'll participate in this, but you have to find another funding partner. So Davidson started floating it around to other studios as well, and he got Disney actually interested in it. And so Disney agreed to co-finance it under their Touchstone Pictures banner, agreed to split production costs and split profits. So TriStar got to distribute the film domestically, and Touchstone distributed the film internationally. Pre-production started around September 95, and they secured some locations. They filmed in a place in South Dakota called Caduca. They filmed in a place in Casper, Wyoming called Hell's Half Acre. So the film was shot by Jos Ficano. He is a frequent collaborator with Verhoeven. He shot Das Boot, he shot RoboCop, and he's really good at this like kinetic moving camera work, these tracking shots where someone's walking and the camera's moving along with them. But he also switches to like handheld, kind of frantic camera work when the battle scenes are going on. Music is done by Basil Polidorus. He did Conan the Barbarian. He did Hunt for Red October. In this one, he's doing like these kind of very militaristic, brass-heavy, booming score. It's kind of over the top, like this big march pastiche. It's just, it's a specific style of music that really kind of fits in with this movie very well. It almost makes you want to stand up and salute and enlist. All right, so let's get into the movie itself. So this movie starts with this fake propaganda video, and there's a lot of these things that are seeded throughout this movie, which, you know, in retrospect is pretty funny. This one is basically
young people from all over the globe are joining up to fight for the future.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
They're doing their part. Are you? Join the mobile infantry and save the world. Service guarantees citizenship.
And you'll see at the end of each one of these things, like a menu pops up, and the voiceover says, "Do you want to know more?" And then it clicks on this thing. It's very, very prescient for 1997. We get some information on quote unquote the bugs, the arachnids that we are fighting with. We find out that they come from a planet called Klendathu. We find out that they hurl meteors at Earth, and that we are staging an invasion of Klendathu. There's a news report. There's an attack, and we see a soldier get injured. Then we find out that we're going into a flashback 1 year. And we are at a high school in Buenos Aires where all the students look like they're 25 or 30, because they are. So basically, let me set this up for you. This is a futuristic world, and these are all high school friends, and this world is run by the United Citizens Federation, and the world is clean, crime is low, but you are not born a citizen with the right to vote or reproduce freely. You have to earn your citizenship through federal service, which means, in most cases, joining the military. So we see our lead actor, who is also the soldier who was injured in the prelude, so to speak. This is Johnny Rico, played by Casper Van Dien. He is an American actor from Florida, deeply rooted with an American family. His father was a U.S. Navy commander. He attended a military academy in real life. He'd been, up until this point, doing small roles in daytime soap operas like One Life to Live. He did a guest spot on Beverly Hills 90210, the original one. Verhoeven liked him because he looked like the idealized, blonde, blue-eyed, big-jawed propaganda poster boy. We also meet his girlfriend, Carmen Ibanez. who is played by Denise Richards. She's from Illinois and grew up in California. She started out as a fashion model, went to Paris and Tokyo before becoming a television actress, doing guest spots on shows like Saved by the Bell and Seinfeld. This is kind of her breakout role. Carmen is, we will find out, a math whiz who joins the Fleet Academy to become a pilot. Verhoeven told her to just flash a dazzlingly big smile every time she's on camera. So we see a class and we see Rico flirting with Carmen. I'm going to talk about the third person here sitting right behind Johnny is Dizzy Flores, who's played by Dina Meyer. She's from New York. She studied business in college before deciding to go into acting. She was in Dragonheart. She was in Johnny Mnemonic. In the novel, Dizzy Flores was a man who dies at the beginning in the first chapter, but Neumeier, he liked the character and he wrote her into this hyper-capable female soldier. And I'll be honest, she kind of steals the movie. She's probably my favorite character. She seems like the only actual human being in the movie. Anyway, so there is the teacher's going around and he's asking, what is a citizen? And Johnny gives the answer.
Rico, what's the moral difference, if any, between a civilian and a citizen?
A citizen accepts personal responsibility for the safety of the body politic, defending it with his life. A civilian does not.
The exact words of the text. But do you understand it? Do you believe it?
I don't know.
Of course you don't. I doubt anyone here would
And
recognize.
so this is the propaganda that the young people in the society are being hit with. The teacher here, by the way, is Michael Ironside. We saw him in Top Gun. In this case, he is playing John Rezak. So these kids go off and there's, the results of the math tests are published and they go and Carmen gets a really high score. Johnny gets a 35. He gets teased by Carl Jenkins. This is Neil Patrick Harris. At this point, everybody knew him as Doogie Howser, MD, the young child doctor from the ridiculous TV series. He would go on to become a legend in shows like How I Met Your Mother. Like seeing Doogie Howser in a basically Nazi uniform at the end of this movie is kind of crazy and exactly what Verhoeven wants. So we see a biology class and there's a bug, like a giant bug, actually one of the smallest of the arachnids, but this thing's like 2.5 feet long and they're dissecting it and Johnny is like digging into it and Carmen is like getting sick. And meanwhile, the teacher, who is this blind woman, is monologuing about the bugs and why they are a perfect life form.
Take the example of the arachnids, a highly evolved insect society. By human standards, they are relatively stupid. But their evolution stretches over millions of years. And now, they can colonize planets by hurling their spore
And this is
into
Rue
space.
McClanahan, who is, it's crazy the casting in this. Rue McClanahan is known at this point as Blanche Dubois in Designing Women. We find out that Carl is a psychic and he is doing psychic tests on Johnny, where he's asking, like he's trying to project thoughts into Johnny's head. But apparently he can control a ferret, but he can't control people yet. So then there's some kind of athletic game. It's indoors, but it kind of looks like football, but it's kind of cheap indoor football, I guess. And we meet Xander from the other school. Xander Berkelau is played by Patrick Muldoon. Muldoon himself was a football player for USC before he became a model and then started doing daytime soap operas like Days of Our Lives, and he did some primetime dramas like Melrose Place. And Xander immediately starts flirting with Carmen. So here's your conflict, right? Here's your love triangle, which is, I guess, going to become a love square later. We see Rico at home, and he's talking to his parents about military service. His parents think that's absolutely crazy. They are apparently wealthy, even though they are, I guess, not citizens. That doesn't mean you can't be successful and you can't be wealthy. It just means you can't vote, but apparently that's not his mother, that at least doesn't think that it's worth the vanity of saying that you can vote to put your life on the line. His father is willing to cut him off if he decides he wants to do this, but Rico wants to kind of blaze his own path, so he wants to join the military. So he goes and talks to his teacher for advice, and Rasek gives him some, I think, pretty decent advice.
I want to join up. I think I got what it takes to be a citizen.
Good for you. Go find out.
Well, my parents are against it, and I know it's my choice. I was wondering, what would you do if you were me?
Figuring things out for yourself is the only freedom anyone really has. Use that freedom. Make up your own mind, Rico.
And so it becomes apparent that there is, obviously Johnny and Carmen are a thing, but Xander's trying to come in on Carmen, but we also see Dizzy, who's flirting with Johnny. So that's what I meant by square. There's kind of like this 4-way romance thing going on at the moment. When Johnny signs up, it's obviously he's going to be separated from Carmen because she's going to the academy because she's smart and gets high test scores. He and Dizzy are going into mobile infantry. Carl is going into intelligence. We see another news story, and there's more of the propaganda.
A murderer was captured this morning and tried today.
Guilty.
Sentence, death. Execution tonight at 6. All net, all channels. Would you like to know more?
If you think you're psychic, maybe you are.
Federal studies are being conducted in your community. Would you like to know more?
And so really quickly, we wind up in boot camp and for the mobile infantry. And this is where Dizzy and Johnny are. And their sergeant is Sergeant Zim, played by the amazing Clancy Brown. Brown started his acting career with a guest shot in 1983 on Dukes of Hazzard. And then he was cast in the 1984 film Bad Boys, not the Will Smith one. This is the Sean Penn one about a juvenile detention facility where he played, a tough guy. He was in Buckaroo Banzai. He was in Thunder Alley, The Bride. Very famously, he was the Kurgan in Highlander in 1986. Had some other movies going on. Very well known for his 1994 role in The Shawshank Redemption as prison guard Byron Hadley. Also really well known for his voice roles. He has played Lex Luthor a couple of times. Obviously, Mr. Krabs in SpongeBob SquarePants. Ryder Azadi in Ahsoka. He played Salvatore Moroni in a couple episodes of The Penguin. If you need this, kind of tough guy, also voiced Surtur in Thor Ragnarok. That big demon that destroys Asgard. Anyway, enough of fanboying for Clancy Brown. Zim immediately challenges the biggest guy in the platoon. This is Breckenridge, who's played by Eric Bruscotter.
You miss your mommy. Quit! Do something for 1248. You grab your gear. You take a stroll down Washout Lane. Do you get me?
Sir, yes, sir.
Pathetic. I wonder if there's a handful of guts in a whole bunch of you. Now, who here thinks they got what it takes to knock me down?
That doesn't go well for Bruscotter. Dizzy challenges him, though, and kind of holds her own. We have other characters who are going to be in the squad here. Jake Busey, Anthony Revivar. Look, I'm going to talk about the shower scene for very briefly. Yes, there's a shower scene where everybody's in co-ed, taking showers, and this one guy who's a writer is going around asking people why they're there.
Stupid enough to sign up for mobile infantry. Breckenridge, what's your excuse?
Oh, my family's all farmers. I hate farming. I mean, mobile infantry is like pure picnic by comparison.
All right, so they grow them big and dumb on the farm planet, huh? And pretty!
I like big!
Jonathan, what about you?
Oh, I'm going into politics, and you gotta be a citizen for that, so here I am.
You want some responsibility?
Yeah.
Shijumi, come on, let's keep it going.
I got into Harvard, but my father says forget it. It's going to cost an arm and a leg, So if I serve, Federation pays my way.
Kind of the funny story is that yes, everybody's naked. These are all young actors, and they're all kind of nervous about it. So Paul Verhoeven and Jos Vacano, they got naked, and they directed and shot the scene naked, and everybody thought it was funny, and it kind of broke the tension, and that's how they all got through it. We got to Carmen, who's at the Fleet Academy, and she's learning how to fly a shuttle, and we find out that she's a really good pilot. She's training with Xander. Their captain is played by Brenda Strong. This is Captain Deladier. Her first role was in the Billy Crystal music video, You Look Marvelous, in 1984. She did guest spots on St. Elsewhere, MacGyver, Cheers, Star Trek Next Generation, Murphy Brown. She was in just a lot of stuff. She had a small part in Spaceballs in 1987. She had several episodes of Seinfeld, where she played Sue Ellen Mischke. And so here she is the captain of Carmen's ship. We're back with the mobile infantry, and they're having a battle simulation, and Rico and Dizzy decide to do one of their old football plays. Dizzy was on that football team. It was a co-ed football team. So they decided to do one of their football plays, and I don't know why they're shooting people in these simulations when they're being trained to fight bugs, but anyway, they obviously win the simulation. There's mail call, and Johnny gets a video from Carmen, and she's breaking up with him.
A ship of my own, and I don't think that's gonna leave a lot of room for you and me, Johnny. Jeez. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. But, I have to follow my heart. I'm sorry.
There's a live fire exercise, and Breckenridge gets killed. Rico gets blamed because he was, I don't know if he was the squad leader, but he was kind of responsible for watching like a particular area. And I think Breckenridge got hurt, and Rico took his helmet off, and then he got shot in the head. So he got blamed. There was a punishment thing where he got 20 lashes, and then he decides he was going to quit. After a dressing down by his commanding officer, played by Dean Norris. There's a lot of like Paul Verhoeven regulars in here, and Dean Norris is one of them. So like I said, Rico is thinking about quitting, and there's this speech about going down Washout Lane.
Well, I'll see ya.
Hey, you take that stroll down Washout Lane. You're only proving one thing, Johnny.
What's that, Diz?
That you don't have what it takes to be a citizen.
But then in the meantime, Earth is attacked directly by the bugs. They launch asteroids at Earth, and Buenos Aires is completely destroyed. And then there's another propaganda video where you see, kids smashing bugs and people talking about killing bugs.
Out of the ashes of Buenos Aires comes first sorrow, then anger.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
In Geneva, the Federal Council convenes.
We must meet the threat with our valor, our blood, indeed with our very lives, to ensure that human civilization, not insect, dominates this galaxy now and
So Johnny decides
always.
he wants to stay, and he goes to the commanding officer, and the commanding officer is like, you already signed your paperwork, but then Sergeant Zim rips up his paperwork, and so they wind up getting deployed to the station where Carmen is. Johnny and Carmen run into each other.
Well, we're still alive. Gotta be happy about that.
You don't look very happy to see me.
Should I be?
Johnny, it's different now. We're at war. I think what I did was probably the best thing for both of us.
It's all very melodramatic. It's kind of like the dialogue in this part of the movie is kind of like literally like an old movie from the 40s or something. But there's a fight with Xander, and then a bunch of guys from the squad, including Johnny and Dizzy and Jake Busey, they go and they get tattoos. So then they're going to go attack Clendathu, and they do this dropship attack, which is kind of cool. They all get in these dropships and they get dropped down, but of course, military intelligence has underestimated the bugs, and the fleet gets really badly damaged, and the mobile infantry gets kind of overrun, and Johnny gets badly injured, and now we have caught up to the beginning of the movie. This was the scene that we had seen right at the very beginning of the movie. So now we are going forward into fresh territory. And it kind of looks like Johnny got killed, but we're like a third of the way into the movie, so obviously he didn't. But he is reported as dead. Carmen gets the casualty report, and his name is on it. There's a leadership change. The Sky Marshal, who is the head military officer, steps down because of the debacle, and there's a new Sky Marshal. There's a scene in here, I think, about a new kind of bug.
There is some kind of bug that we haven't seen yet. A leadership caste, a hive brain.
Brain bugs? Frankly, I find the idea of a bug that thinks offensive.
We find out that Johnny is in fact alive. He's in this tank, like a Star Wars Bacta tank, where he's healing, and they all come to visit him. He finds out that he had gotten rescued by Rasek, who is his teacher, is now a lieutenant in the mobile infantry, and he's very gung ho.
This is for you new people. I only have one rule. Everyone fights, no one quits. You don't do your job, I'll shoot you. You get me.
We get you, sir!
Welcome to the Roughnecks.
Ratchats, Roughnecks!
So there's another attack, this time on a planet called Tinker Urilla. They're doing pretty well, and Johnny manages to single-handedly kill this thing called a tanker bug, which is this big, huge bug that burrows underground and shoots fire. So he's made a corporal, and Dizzy is made a squad leader. And Dizzy and Johnny, there's a scene where they hook up. And now we move to kind of the main part, which is the big attack on Planet P. So get to this planet, and they get overrun by thousands of bugs, and this is one soldier who gets impaled by a bug and is getting flipped around in the air, and Rasek just shoots him and then says, "I expect you to do the same thing to me." They get into the Federation base that was there, and they find a guy with a big hole, like a dead guy, obviously with a big hole in the top of his skull.
What does that look like to you, Rico?
Looks like a bug was in his brain, sir.
They sucked his brains out.
And they find hiding in a closet is General Owens, who is played by Marshall Bell, another Paul Verhoeven regular, well known as Quado in Total Recall. So there's a bug attack, and Rasek stirs everybody up to go fight.
Warm it all up! Everything you got! Come on, you hate! You want to live forever?
Which is a line that will come back. They have flying bugs now. They fly now. So there's a really brutal, gruesome firefight between the bugs and the people, and guys just getting, the flying bugs come along and they just fly by and they cut people's heads off, and guys are getting impaled, and they're getting limbs cut off, and they're getting ripped in half. Bugs are getting, blown up and exploded all over the place. It's just really tons of gore. But that's kind of the point. That's Verhoeven's point. So they call for retrieval. Xander and Carmen come in a shuttle and they rescue them. But as they're getting ready to get to the shuttle, Rasek gets injured and he gets pulled down by a tanker bug, and then they pull him out, but the whole lower half of his body is gone, and there's more bugs coming, and Rasek's like, "You know what to do." So Rico shoots him in the chest.
Rico! You know what to do! Yes, sir! Do it, Rico!
Dizzy kills the tank bug, but then she gets impaled. There's more giant tank bugs coming, and the compound's getting overrun, but they manage to get out on the shovel, and Dizzy, she has this really drawn out death scene, fridging at its finest, because now Johnny is really annoyed.
Roger Young, we have an official request by the mobile infantry to commence bombardment of Planet P.
I thought you were dead.
I'm not, but a lot of my troopers are.
Negative on your request, Rooter. The Sky Marshal has other plans for Planet P. Welcome back.
MI does the dying, fleet just does the flying.
Hold on, something's up.
So we see Dizzy's funeral. I guess she's the only one that they brought her back. So Johnny is there, and Johnny gives a eulogy.
Once, somebody asked me if I knew the difference between a citizen and a civilian. I can tell you now. A citizen has the courage to make the safety of the human race their personal responsibility. Dizzy was my friend. She was a soldier. But more than that, she was a citizen of the Federation.
So Carl arrives. He's there because they have confirmed the way that the bugs counterattack, that they're smarter than they thought they were, and that there must be one of these new brain bugs on Planet P. So he's got a mission for the mobile infantry, for the Roughnecks, as they call themselves, that they're going to capture one of these brain bugs. He promotes Rico to lieutenant. There's new recruits. Rico gives his speech.
This is for all you new people. I only have one rule. Everyone fights. No one quits. If you don't do your job, I'll kill you myself. Do you get me? We get you, sir! Welcome to the Roughnecks.
Rico's Roughnecks!
There's another bug attack. The cruisers are all damaged. Carmen's captain dies. Carmen and Xander escape in an escape pod, and they're flying down while the battle's going on the ground, and they wind up crashing into a cave. And Johnny's squad initially goes to try to find them, but he's reminded that that's not their orders.
To be rude, buddy. Word has it she's dead.
She's still alive.
How do you know?
I don't know how I know, but I know.
Listen, you got command. But going off mission, that's a serious offense.
Yeah, I think they hang you for that.
Roughneck 2-0, proceed on mission. I need 2 volunteers.
So he takes a couple of guys and they go, he sends the rest of the squad off to do what they're supposed to do, and he takes a couple of guys to go try to find Carmen and Xander. Meanwhile, the bugs have caught Xander and Carmen, but they haven't killed them. They're just kind of holding them with spikes through their leg, and then we see the brain bug, which is really gross. It's this like giant puffy caterpillar thing with like 8 eyes and this big, I won't even describe what its mouth looks like, and this kind of long proboscis that comes out, and it kills Xander. It like drills this thing into his head and sucks his brains out. And it's about to do the same thing to Carmen when Rico arrives, and Rico is holding a nuke in his hand.
You know what this is? Sure you do. You're some kind of big, fat, smart bug, aren't you?
So there's another fight, and then Watkins, who's one of the guys in Rico's squadron, gets like mortally injured. So he takes the nuke. He's like, just give it to me. And the rest of them escape, and Watkins sets off the nuke and kills a lot of the bugs. And then the mobile infantry is able to, like, these guys come out of the cave, and there's all these guys running, and they're like, what's going on? They're like, we got it. And they had captured, one of the other squads captured the brain bug, and Carl is there, and he comes up to try to do a psychic reading, I guess, on it. And
It's afraid.
It's afraid!
so this is the big victory moment. By the way, the general here, played by Dale Dye, who we saw in Platoon, staple of military movies and action movies throughout this whole period and even through today. And then we find out that Zim is back in the mobile infantry.
This is when it turned. And it wasn't the mighty fleet, it wasn't some fancy new weapon. was a drill instructor named Zim who captured a brain.
Zim.
He got him! Yeah! Zim got the bug! Zim got the bug, man!
Good job, Sergeant.
Thank you, sir. That would be private, sir.
Carry on, Private.
Yes, sir!
His, the commanding officer, Dean Norris, had threatened to demote him to private if he tried to get back. And so he's back. And then there's another propaganda piece at the end. We find out that Carmen's been promoted to captain. We find out the scientists are studying the brain bug.
We have the ships. We have the weapons. We need soldiers. Soldiers like Lieutenant Stack Lumbreezer.
We're in the target area now, Captain.
And Captain Carmen Ibanez.
This is the captain speaking. All personnel prepare for drop.
Soldiers like Private Ace Levy and Lieutenant John Rico.
Come on, you apes! You wanna live forever!
We need you all. Service guarantees citizenship.
And that is the end of Starship Troopers. So the film opened November 7th, 1997. Opening weekend, it did $22.1 million. It wound up doing $54.8 million domestically, $66.3 million internationally, for a total of $121 million on a budget of $110. That is, I mean, this was a rental market staple, so I'm sure it made its money back over and over with home video releases, rentals, selling it to TV and movie channels. This thing was on all the time. So I'm sure in the aggregate, this movie did quite well for itself. It's got a 72 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got a 52 on Metacritic. It's got a C+ on Cinescore. A lot of critics didn't get it. They just didn't understand the satire in it, and they took it as kind of sincere. Washington Post did an editorial on it, and they talked about how it was a pro-fascist movie, which to me is crazy. This is Stephen Hunter, and he literally titled his review Starship Troopers and the Nazi Aesthetic. He says, I don't mean to suggest that it's political propaganda in the literal sense or that it advocates Nazism, but it's a film that presupposes it. It's spiritually Nazi, psychologically Nazi. It comes directly out of Nazi imagination and is set in the Nazi universe. You know who did get it? Roger Ebert got it. He didn't like it. He gave it 2 stars. He said what's lacking is exhilaration and sheer entertainment. Unlike the Star Wars movies, which embraced a joyous vision and great comic invention, Starship Troopers doesn't resonate. It's one-dimensional. We smile at the satirical asides, but where's the warmth of human nature, the spark of genius or rebellion? If Star Wars is humanist, Starship Troopers is totalitarian. Obviously, it did not win any Oscars. It was nominated for Best Visual Effects. It was nominated by the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards for Worst Picture, but it did lose to Batman and Robin. It was nominated for Best Action Sequence at the MTV Music Awards. And it did receive a nomination for Best Dramatic Presentation from the Hugo Awards. And it was nominated at the Golden Satellite Awards for Best Motion Picture. So some people liked it. It was very, very controversial. You might be surprised to know that there is actually a Starship Trooper franchise out there. In 2004, we got Starship Trooper 2, Hero of the Federation, that has none of the original cast in it. In 2008, we got Starship Trooper 3, Marauder. Casper Van Dien is back in this one, playing Johnny Rico, along with Boris Kodjoe and Jolene Blalock. There has been talk recently of a reboot. There was something announced in 2011 that it was going to be rebooted by producer Neil Moritz. There were writers announced in 2016. In 2025, Neil Blomkamp was signed and said that he was going to write and direct a new adaptation of Starship Trooper which would be closer to the novel than the Verhoeven film was. And that is probably still in pre-production or in development. So that, in a nutshell, is Starship Troopers. Do you want to know more? Thanks for listening, and we will catch you next time.